How did you get those big guests despite not having a lot of followers?
With one of the guests, Mark Ropes, I was so convinced that he would never in a million years read my message. One of the big lessons that I can give away is to not let perfect get in the way of good.
Hi, welcome to this new episode of the Impact Podcast Lab. And my intention with these conversations is to help conscious leaders grow their high impact podcast. You're certainly doing that, Lara. You're a bit more advanced than many of my guests because I think you already have over 20 episodes, but also you've had some really big guests already on your show. So congratulations. And today we'll have a nice conversation and learn from that also. So my first question to you, Lara, is why do you have a podcast?
Well, that's a big question right there. Okay. So, my podcast actually developed very organically out of my own need at a certain point in time about 2 years ago when I ended a very tumultuous relationship. And so just to frame it, my podcast is about relationships, connection, loneliness, isolation, about all the things that hold us back to truly connecting and being authentic with others. And I had myself gone through a severe period of loneliness and isolation after that breakup. And my podcast became a platform of healing for myself. And I thought, well, if I put it out there for myself, then maybe it also touches others and can heal others. So I asked really questions that came from the heart, and I connected with people that I connected with their content with from the heart. And um, a lot of things that had happened in the previous relationships were hitting my confidence quite significantly. So when I was coming out of that relationship, I felt as if I could not express myself openly. I was almost like really closed down. A part of me just didn't want to open the door and walk back out into the life. Like it was really sort of fear driven. It was very my whole point of like self-expression, my whole self-expression had just disappeared. And I felt as if I had lost my voice. And so, because I felt as if I still had the pressure from the outside coming in through friends and so on, I felt I couldn't actually say out loud what I needed to say out loud. And so my podcast guest had become a vehicle for me to do that. They said out loud what I could not. And so for me, it was a catalyst. My podcast was a catalyst for my own healing. Yeah.
I love that. And I think it's always a beautiful way to start. I mean, people can start at different place in their journey, but I also started my podcast out of following my own curiosity and my own personal development. And I think it's a really good reason to start. And even often the best episodes will be when the host is led by their curiosity, right? So now I'm coaching people on starting a podcast, and sometimes it's about, okay, what topic and what works and what's trendy, and there's a place for that, but at the same time the energy will transpire through the podcast. So if you're really curious, if you really want to be there in that conversation, people are going to feel it, right?
Mm. And I must say that I feel that what you're saying, because I have hit certain days where I met a guest and I was so excited and I was looking forward to that interview for so long. And I woke up and it was just not my day and I wasn't in the right energy and there was nothing that I could do to switch over and then still being able to hold that space. Sometimes there are days where, and I think it's also maybe to do with the feminine cycle, because there will be days in the month where you just don't function the same.
Yeah.
So I think that sometimes has been a big learning curve for me.
And I actually coached a woman who did a podcast especially around following your cycle as a woman, and so she
Amazing.
was also adapting her recording schedule based on that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Very smart. I should do that. I'm gonna steal that from her. Maybe
Yeah.
send me the link.
Yeah. And so, Lara, another question would be, you've had some big guests on your show, like the guy who has Create the Love on Instagram, or
Mark
Garen
Groves, yeah.
Jones. Yeah, or
Mm.
Garen Jones. And you're only 20 episodes in. I think your Instagram has like 2,000 followers or something. So you're not like a big celebrity, or you don't have a huge platform, but you
Yeah.
were able to have these people like, yeah, Mark Groves. He has 1 million followers on Instagram. How did you manage to get big guests, even if you don't have a huge podcast?
Yes. So I do want to frame that. And there's something that needs to be said to put that in perspective, because I don't have a big Instagram following. However, I do think that I kind of self-sabotaged that a little bit, because with something that I only just recently learned as well. I think my Instagram account exists since 2017. So it's almost 10 years old, and I've used it for certain ways of developing myself. I, back in the day, started this account when I was still in corporate, and I wanted to just share and collect information about wellness and work-life balance. And so it's evolved a lot since, and I've been on a journey with it. And back in the day, I used it mostly for my coaching purpose. I was coaching on spirituality. That's evolved now. And I'm now on this new platform, SKN Lara. And I'm going to develop that further. However, what I learned about Bliss underscore Republic, my Instagram, is that I had back in the day, I think, hit a really dark time, and I was like, I'm desperate. I'm gonna buy some followers. And I ended up buying like 50 or so followers. And I'm not sure if they're still on there, even I have no idea. Um, and you win a few, you lose a few. That's like happening all the time.
You bought 50 followers? That sounds like
Yeah, a very
ridiculous.
small. Yeah, it was like 50, but it was
Okay.
like, it was just like, I didn't even buy them. It was like, I'll pay for them, because someone approached me and they were like, do you want 50 more? Do you want all these followers? Like, we'll give you 50 now, you can test it out. And then if you want more, you buy more. And I was just like, sure, right? I didn't think it would have a consequence. However, it has a huge consequence if you buy your followers, because the algorithm, something happens where in the end you cannot outgrow yourself, because there's always something that clicks in where it's like a handicap that shows Instagram, you've bought followers, therefore we're not pushing out your content. And so sad. I'm considering even further, like we'll see where the podcast goes, but like
Okay, but
it's the
so how did you get
Instagram.
those? How did you get those big guests despite not having a lot of followers?
So yeah, so that's just to frame it. Why the Instagram is where it is. I do think it's important to collaborate with people that do have a big following to improve your following, and the big guests in themselves can support you with that. But I guess that was never the focus. That was never the focus. For me, it was really about genuine connection. It was about connecting with people I myself follow. I'm interested in their content. I'm interested in what they have to say. And I sent them a message and said, look, really like your content. Would you like to come on my podcast? And I guess there's something to be said about the two bigger guests that I had, and there's also more than just two. There are some bigger guests on there that are even now growing and upcoming, and they are gaining momentum. Um, is that I was always myself in a really good headspace when I reached out to them. And I do believe that there is a vibrational truth where if they read your message and your frequency matches, it's a yes. And they don't, it's just something linking in where you hope they do read your message with one of the guests, Mark Groves, it was actually quite funny because I was so convinced that he would never in a million years read my message. And I was just like, okay, let's give it one more try. I was already in bed and I was just scrolling on my phone and I was like, hey, I would literally like, I was replying to, oh, I was like, I saw a post and then I put a comment underneath and I was like, I would sell my mom and 3 camels to you if you were to come on my podcast. And I just put on my phone away. I went to bed and I was like, yeah, you'll never read that anyway, you know? The next morning, I woke up to a response from him. And I got a response and he was like, keep your mom, but do take the camels. So I was like, okay, I guess we're doing a podcast. Yeah. So it was really sweet. He's a very incredible person, very genuine, clear. Like there's a lot of I feel like a lot of the guests that I work with also they don't drink alcohol. For some reason there's this commonality that I find podcasters, maybe also the podcasting community, there's this trend of let's just not do alcohol because I want to be clear in my head. I want to be present, and it's something that I really cherish and love. And I guess it's also, yeah, just another part of this vibrational truth that we're just like, yeah, no, we're here together in this space, and we're all just human. We all, it doesn't matter how many followers you have, even if that seems to be the new currency. But yeah, it's just like the ability to know that we're all eye level. We're all eye level.
Yeah, I mean that's true, but then there's always just a status game that plays out on the
Don't
internet.
play
And
the
I
game,
understand.
you
Yeah, I
know? Don't
understand
play
if
the
some
game.
people are like have requests all the time and then of course. But did you have to follow up much with him and with Garin actually?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I consider the many times I have to follow up a level of professionality. If I and some people they hold themselves accountable, they're very professional, and I do have the means to have an assistant. So they basically just refer me to the assistant. The assistant deals with finding a time and we'll just manage the back end of it. I am terrible in following up. I'm really terrible. I will be like, oh yeah, I think half a year ago I spoke with someone about a pod. Let's just see if they're still interested. I'm terrible. So I'm lucky if I find someone who is like, actually, let's just give it to the assistant and we'll just manage it from there. They will manage it from there. But I do think, because of course we all have been in the situation where we reached out to someone, they showed, to be super keen, and then they ghosted you. And it's like, well, I guess you're not ready. I guess you're not in the shoes where you're able to be on my podcast. And I just say that like that. And that's just also the truth. Yeah. And I'll just let it go. Like I'm not pushing anyone to be on my podcast.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm interested now to do a kind of a little game.
Go. Oh, I love games.
So let's take a close eyes for 10 seconds. Take a deep breath. And let's imagine that now, it's 2027, but 2 years from now, exactly. And we're having a podcast. And I'm asking you, Lara, 2 years ago, we did a podcast. And since then, everything's been going amazing with your podcast. Everything you've been trying, it worked out all perfectly. All the guests you wanted, all the success you wanted with your podcast and your businesses. And I ask you, what's been happening? What do you tell me?
Intuitively, the first thing that popped straight into my mind is I will have 100 episodes. I think that's doable. I definitely.
So you had 100 episodes. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And hopefully I can, well,
Thank you for watching. If you're here, it probably means you're interested to grow a high impact podcast. And I hear you. It's brought so much into my life over the past 7 years. And I'm now passionate about helping other conscious leaders grow theirs. So we can flood the internet with insightful and empowering content. If you have any comments or questions or feedback, leave a comment below. I read and reply to all of them. And if you feel like I may be able to help you with your podcast journey, get in touch. I have a community of impact-driven podcasters, and I support conscious leaders one-on-one also to help them with their podcast, from training them to working as an agency, so you can focus on the fun part, which is to show up and speak. So check out the links in the description and maybe speak to you soon. Much love and enjoy the rest of this episode.
I think I'll be in the position to say I had other great guests and also followed a straight line, followed my red thread throughout the topics that I'm evolving around to stay in the same orbit and reach a lot of people.
Who was your favorite guest?
Ooh, should I say it out loud? Gabor Mate.
Oh, nice one. Nice one. Yeah, please give me the contact. I'd love to have him too.
Okay.
Do a warm, nice intro. And you said you've been impacting a lot of people. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I reached about 500,000 people on my YouTube channel. I reached about 50,000 on my podcast Instagram. And I've entirely cross-pathed that with my coaching business.
Okay, let's get into that. And the YouTube reach on YouTube, did you mean like subscribers? Was it 500,000 subscribers?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're mentioning your coaching business. Let's come back to 2025.
Okay.
You're mentioning thank you for playing with me.
Thanks for that little journey.
Yeah. So actually a lot of the people who are conscious leaders and who start a podcast, they're like healers or coaches or conscious entrepreneurs. You're a coach yourself. How do you feel podcasting and coaching works together?
I love the question. I think it goes together really well. I think one of the things why I, in the end, always come back to coaching, I started, so I have a graduate certificate in psychology, and I still play with the idea to continue on my studies of psychology and do my master's. However, I believe also that psychology is so far from developing as quickly as the coaching business is and the coaching world is. I think there's incredible approaches due to the fact that it isn't government restricted. It isn't there are not too many policies around it. I think coaching has definitely outgrown psychology, definitely in a broad sense, potentially even in a sense of depth. And when it comes to psychology, there is a principle that you have to follow when you are a psychologist. You continuously have to educate yourself to stay on top of what's new, what's going on, which is not very fast paced, but you have to show an effort and a willingness to retrain continuously. And I believe as a coach, you should uplift to that same principle. And I guess naturally You kind of have to. And I do think podcasting offers me the opportunity to pick someone else's brain on where is their headspace going at this point in time. If I speak to someone else in Canada, on the other side of the world, or in Australia, or here in Germany, it gives me the opportunity to beam myself into their orbit to see what's happening in their world. What are the problems that they wake up to? What are the things that bug them? And that's also a question of society, relational, and it's in between humans. And it's to do with, yeah, just really not getting to know the person only, but also getting to know what's happening. And there's a trend that you can see throughout different interviews of people dealing with the same things, or their clients. I interview coaches a lot, so their clients dealing with other problems or same problems. And I find that very interesting. I find that really insightful. And there's not ever been a single podcast episode that I've walked away from without having learned anything.
So as a coach, you like that podcast so you can keep learning, keep educating yourself,
Yeah.
which I think is really beautiful. Another thing that often comes to mind, I don't know if it relates for you, but and I love that you're doing it for you first, but then also it's a great way potentially to get your personality towards more people, get more people to know, like, and trust you, and then potentially sell your own coaching practice through that, right? Do you actively think of your podcast as a way to get clients as a coach?
I consider that. I haven't done it so far. I don't think that I have the reach at this point. And I don't want to. I don't think my reach is strong enough to hold it yet, to be a platform of sales in any way. If it's for my own coaching, if it's an affiliate program, whatever it is, I think it needs to. It's almost like having a baby. You need to first let it learn to crawl, then it needs to learn to walk, and then it needs to learn to speak. And it's like giving it time to evolve naturally. I think that's something that's always been important to me. And I have a background of strategy in corporate. And so for me, I'm always thinking about these things. I'm always thinking about what's the next step? Where are we in the big picture? What's the natural evolution of this coming? So I've done an analysis and I've done sort of a research on this, but I've decided that I don't want to stretch it with my audience too far before they're ready. And I do think that it's also, if you compare other big successful up and coming podcasters, like, I don't know, do you know Jack Steele? Young podcaster, has a really interesting lineup of guests as well coming onto his show. And yeah, I just see that they're not advertising. They're not using it to push anything. And so I think that the trend actually is going away from doing that, and then finding other ways that are indirect, more subtle, to promoting your own coaching. I've subtly already done that in this conversation by mentioning my platform. If people are interested, I don't need to push it onto them. But if they're interested in me and my work, they will decide, oh, I'm going to look her up. I'm going to see. She said she has a YouTube channel. And it's naturally just going there. And that's the kind of client that I also want. That's like pulled in rather than, because I think that's more about the person I am.
Yeah. I hear you. And for example, I have a little bit of a different approach, but doesn't mean one is right and not another. Actually, yours might be a more feminine approach, which is more the attraction. And then there's the masculine, which is more like intentional and going for it. And then there's a whole spectrum in between, right? Where I feel it's annoying to have people who are too pushy. And
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, I feel sometimes people are a little bit shy to share about what they do. So, for example, for me, I will say when I listen to a podcast and I feel something doesn't come across as super authentic. So, for example, I don't know, I listen to Joe Rogan, it's like, oh, this is sponsored by AG1. But I don't know if he really takes it. I feel it's just to monetize the podcast. So for me, it doesn't land super well. I'm just like, skip.
Yeah.
But if I listen to, for example, a coach I really like is Rich Litvin, and he's going to speak about his next intensive or coaching program, I'm not skipping the ad because I'm like, I like what you do. I want to hear what you're creating that maybe I want to be part of. So that's what I'm doing also with my podcast. So for example, this one is cut with a minute where I talk about my podcast coaching because I genuinely think that fits and that people who listen to that, they might want to go further with that. And
Yeah.
I want them to be aware of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a fine balance. But in your case, for example, I totally respect where you are, but I'm sure if you do, like people listen and they're regulars to your podcast, they would love to, yeah, to know like how they can contact you or maybe work with you, have a session with you. So I think it's nice to offer that.
So if anyone's listening to this right now and they go on my site and they can't get in contact, please also somehow let me know because I want to know if sometimes I forget about putting my name or, the little things that yeah. Sometimes the other day someone said to me, oh, well, you want to grow maybe your YouTube channel. So how come you don't have your YouTube channel on your Instagram? And I said, well, it's a really good point. Was that you, actually? Was that you? I don't know.
I think it was me, yeah.
I thought it was a brilliant point because I was like, thanks for saying that because no one ever has taught me. Like no one. And one of the things I also want to say that I learned is as a podcaster and or content creator, you put so many things out there with so much care. And we often forget that most of the time these things don't get seen as much as we think. We think, oh, well, we have these followers, they see every post. Sometimes they don't. Like they don't see all of the posts. And sometimes they just maybe see a story and I think one of the big lessons that I can give away is that certainly has been true for me is to not let perfect get in the way of good, and to put it out there and still let it be what it is, and then learn with time. And if a link is missing or the little details is missing, you just, then you just add it. Done. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And there can be so much that comes into the creation of the podcast that if you do, the 80% that matter and then a few things aren't perfect, it's already something to celebrate ourselves for.
Totally. Yeah. So, yeah, that's pretty much me and my podcast.
Yeah, let's have a little closing part more on the technicals also because you told me before we started that first that you use Riverside too, which is I think something we probably both recommend. I think it's really good software for recording podcast online like this and having
I'm gonna
easier
be honest with
editing
you.
and
I
clips.
think I wish it was a bit cheaper in the subscription.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much it is a month where you are, but I'm just now paying euros, and it definitely is more expensive in euros than in Australian dollars.
Okay, $30 a month. I mean, from
Yeah.
my perspective and what I do with it and how much I use it, I think it's quite a deal, but depends, I guess, how much you use it. Because I do like, 6 podcasts a month or something.
Oh wow, you do 6 a month?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. I try to do at the moment 2 a month, and even that sometimes is like, yeah. But I guess, yeah. You have so many podcasts. So.
Yeah, the other thing with these tools, often they're like the same price whether you use them a lot or not, and so it can add up if you use once or twice a month. That's partly one of the reasons why, like when I start working with people, the focus on consistency isn't just for the algorithm or for your audience, it's for you to get used to it, like
Mm,
anything that you learn, but also it just makes more sense sometimes with the subscription, the payments to do something more fully and then do something else later than trying to start four or
totally.
five things at the same time.
How can I ask you, how has it been for you to work with all the edits afterwards? Do you just like use Riverside for your edits for the like to make short clips?
Yeah, I do. I'm
Mm.
very happy with Riverside. Of course, if you're a professional editor, it will have its own limitations. So but for someone like me who wants to do fairly basic edits, like I like to put teasers at the beginning, like little clips to get
Mm.
people engaged, especially for YouTube. That's really good to have those first 30 seconds quite engaging. Put like a 5-second intro logo, do tiny cuts if I need to. I don't cut the conversation, but more if there's like the beginning, the end, or something that happened in the middle. And sometimes I put a little bit of B-rolls also at the beginning, like if I
Mm.
have someone who had a hair transformation, I'll put photos, for example. So little things like this and the clips. And I find for that, yeah, it makes my life so much easier.
Mm. Yeah, that's nice. I found Riverside quite limited in the clip selection that it gives me, because what they select doesn't is not as relevant. If I use other platforms like Opus Clips or what's the other one, Descript, um, they are much better, I find, in what they select out of the conversation.
Interesting. Yeah, I used to
Yeah.
use Opus and I wasn't always very happy. But anyway, what I do
Mm.
often with Riverside is I like it's gonna select 10 clips and then I'll choose the three best, but all of them I usually make modification. Like I change the hook and maybe
Hmm.
I'll do little changes to it. I don't take them just like this.
Mm. Yeah. 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 And then how many clips do you usually produce for each podcast?
Like two,
Yeah.
just to get the word out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
Yeah,
I
I
have a
started
big,
with
if I have a
many.
big, a guest with a big Instagram following, I'll probably do a couple.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to do so many and then I was like every time I had, let's say, like 5 or 7, then after the third it would just completely drop off and people were like, yeah, we know now. It's like, okay, I don't need to do that much.
That's a good tip. Yeah, thank you. And also regarding the studio, you told me this was your like a little room that you turned into a studio. So
So
that's
I'm
perfect.
actually right now in my dad's house attic. So this used to be a little studio for my mom where she would do sewing and art projects. And I came up here the other day. I don't even know why. I was looking for something and I walked into this room and I was like, this is perfect for recording. It's quiet. Like it's this little room. And I just went downstairs and I found some color and I started painting the walls. Like I painted all of this. It was like dark red before it was like not usable at all. And I put wallpaper and yeah, just a few accessories that I found secondhand and I'm just like loving it.
Yeah, looks good.
Thank
Amazing.
you.
Yeah.
This is a passion project.
Yeah, sometimes it requires quite a bit of creativity to be like, okay, how am I gonna turn that into a studio and
Do you like the
all that.
flamenco?
I love the flamingo.
Just in case it's like cut out, I'm just gonna put it in the
No, we could
picture.
see it. Yeah, it's like this Sri and Try is actually a friend on. He loved the podcast and he gave me that to me for free because it's the logo of
Oh,
the light leaders and he's making lead up Sri yantras like this. So that was
that's
really
so
sweet.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's sweet. So I learned a lot. Um, I think especially once about 2 months ago, I left Australia and I came to Europe to get a break from all the pressures. And since I'm here with my dad, like I get family time, I get, to basically live for free, which is amazing because it gives me mental capacity to really be focused on the podcast and not have too many distractions,
yeah, yeah,
as well as
yeah.
the
It is.
coaching, because the
It is
coaching there's a lot going that's going to happen in the next month.
amazing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It is a question too. Is like for me, I like that's why I like to reflect also on how I can help monetization with the podcast, because making money through YouTube is going to be very long. Like or you maybe you blew out and that's good on you, but you need
Mm.
a lot of views. Like I don't know for you, but with my
Mm.
10,000 views a month, I make $40. But that's why I'm interested, especially when we work with coaches, how we can integrate monetization, because then it allows to keep going with the podcast. Because if the podcast doesn't bring any revenue and
Mm.
it's like totally separate from professional life and finances, then I mean, when things are good, you can do it, but when things are a little bit harder,
Mm.
then it's like a lot of
I
time
have
and
a
energy
question about
away.
YouTube actually.
Yeah.
Um, how many followers do you need to have though? Because my following on YouTube is very little.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's 1,000 to start the monetization.
Ah, okay, great. Yeah.
What's your following on YouTube?
300? I need to grow
Okay.
that.
Okay. Okay. Because I saw you had, but the good thing is with YouTube is when you have a video that hits, you get much more. Because I saw you have a video at like 12,000 views, even though you have only 200 or 300
That's
subscribers,
true.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what it was about. That was a great guest as well. And it was like my third guest, Safe from Dubai. Had a really good topic, and I think a lot of people were quite interested in the topic. So yeah, that was
Yeah, and
really helpful.
that's usually a great way to grow, which is sometimes
Mm,
a little bit more random. And it's not fully random. There's obviously best practices, but sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't. Is when the
hmm
YouTube algorithm picks up on the video and starts recommending it. That's the best. And then there are things that are more controllable. Like I like to use the collab feature on Instagram,
Yeah,
and that helps. But yeah, having nailing the YouTube game is an interesting one too. Yeah.
it is. It is. I found it quite difficult to get followers on YouTube. Yeah. So if you have any tip for that, let me know.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Mhm.
I think every 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 video making the work, trying to make it work. So that means for me is having a good conversation. Of course, is
Mm,
the basis, but then putting a little bit of work on the thumbnail and the title and the first minute can be quite important for YouTube to recommend the video and to
yeah,
have more views per video.
yeah,
And yeah, then it depends. I've been yeah, also sometimes saying a little word about like subscribe and leave a comment just to try to convert a one-time viewer into a subscriber. Mm.
hmm
I think it makes more sense also if you that's the challenge when you do it as a passion project, which you and have been doing, is it might not speak as much to one audience
hmm
versus when you speak to one audience and when people see a video of you, they like for example here could be like, okay, I want to grow a podcast that's about podcasting, so I watch this video, I'm also going to subscribe,
Yes,
versus
yeah.
if it's different topics all the time, that you might have some videos that have a lot of views but then people don't necessarily subscribe.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true.
But the thing is,
Um,
you don't really, I mean, to me, I don't focus so much on the subscriber. I think it's important,
yeah.
it's good, but at the same time, now YouTube, if you make a good video, YouTube's gonna share it with your non-subscribers with the
Mm.
algorithm also. So you don't need a lot of subscribers to have a lot of views. And at the same time, I know channels, they have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and now when they publish a video, they get 100 views just because the algorithm's not gonna push it just because you have subscribers.
Mm. Yeah, you never know. So that's
Yeah.
interesting. I definitely, because I will start a second channel with my coaching, so that will be interesting to see how that's gonna go, because that's gonna start from scratch. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
hmm
Yeah. Same here. That's what I'm doing too with the new channel.
Fantastic.
Well, thanks, Lara. It was a pleasure. Do you have a last share you want to share with a viewer? Obviously, I'll put your Instagram also in the description for
Amazing.
people who want to follow you.
Thank you. Yes. So my podcast is the Bliss Republic podcast, and it's bliss_republic on Instagram. My coaching is Lara SKN. It's SKN. underscore Lara on Instagram. And from there, you can find all the other links.
Okay, awesome. And of course, I hope you gain a few subscribers also on the YouTube channel.
I'd
Go and
love that.
subscribe
Thank
to her
you.
channel.
Okay.
Thank you,
Fantastic.
Lara. Thank you, everyone. Much love.
Thanks, Alex. Good chatting.